This is DBTV. I am joined by Gino Nardella, the master sommelier in charge of the Stafford Hotel's 10,000 bottle $1 million cellar. And I believe it's 380 years old. So, Gino, can you tell me a bit about the history of this wonderful cellar?
Yeah, well, the cellars originally naturally not the Stafford wine cellars. They were built for Sir Francis Godolphin, who nearly 3 centuries ago decided that he needed a wine cellar and built these wonderful cellars for us, really. Very lucky to have them.
And it's underneath a mews, is that right? They used to sell
Yes,
the stables?
well, he needed the wine cellar and a stable facility, so he built, the stables above here, where he kept his horses, and all the barrels and his fine wines now in the wine cellars.
So we've got a few bottles here in front of us you're going to chat about. And what is the oldest bottle in your cellar?
Well, we have many old bottles, and actually, this is not a museum. We tend, to serve the bottles, when they're ready for drinking. But we do keep, a few bottles behind, and from time to time, actually, we pull the cork. And there are some wonderful surprises.
And you've got a port here, yeah.
Yeah, I've just actually, at random, picked 3 wonderful bottles here. We'll start with a bottle of vintage port, Croft, 1942, bottle in 1945.
So the year the war ended?
The year the war ended, yes. I mean, the cellars, we had American and Canadian military personnel staying here in 1944 and 1945. And I'm sure, most probably, the cellars were their favourite really place here at the Stafford.
And it's amazing, I've just seen earlier, they left behind a load of their
yeah,
bits and bobs.
Lots of memorabilia, newspapers, magazines and
gas masks.
Gas masks, empty bottles which we kept. But in those days, and actually the cellars were full of barrels, as at the time, bottling was done here in the wine cellars. And
tell me the anecdote about Churchill that you mentioned earlier.
Well, the cellars during the Second World War were partly leased to Madame Prunier, and Madame Prunier had a famous fish restaurant here in St. James's, and naturally, because of the Blitz, she wanted to close the restaurant, but she was not allowed because the restaurant was a landmark, and Sir Winston Churchill said that the restaurant had to stay open. He said the milkman is still delivering, the milk bottle to you, and you keep your restaurant open.
So she kept calm and carried on?
Absolutely. She kept, the restaurant open, and she kept the bottling in fine wines in our wine cellars.
Jolly good. Yes. And you guys specialise in half bottles, and you've got a very special half bottle.
Yeah, we have a great collection of half bottles, and I've just found, an half bottle of, just scrape a little bit of the dust, being very careful with the label. That's an half bottle of Château Lafite 1976.
My goodness.
I've tasted this wine actually just before Christmas last year. We thought that we had the Christmas treat, and the wine is still in perfect condition. Hot vintage 1976, still a lot of colour, good acidity, still very much a Lafite. Yes.
And you've got a little curiosity here as well from Australia.
Yes. Well, I just found, a bottle of Roxburgh.
Right.
This is a Chardonnay made by Rosemount, made in the Hunter Valley, so New South Wales, 1986.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what have you tasted that recently, or when?
Not recently. The colour is really dark.
Yeah, I want to get this colour in. Can you hold it up to the light, maybe? It's just this most magnificent amber. Fantastic for that. Should be still showing well, hopefully.
Well, we'll see once we open the bottle. We will not know until we actually taste it.